Ladies and gentlemen, please stand in honor of the 11th hour, the 11th day on the 11th month. For a moment of silence, please. Please continue to stand for the Native American honoring song and the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you all for taking the time to come to our event today. It really means a lot. My name's Ali Zell. I'm the coordinator for the Maxwell Student Veterans Center here at Lane Community College. I'd like to take a minute just to acknowledge a few people, starting off with our color guard that's not here. You may have noticed that we did not have an Army color guard to present the colors. And the reason we don't have an Army color guard to present the colors today is because they're currently doing their job in Kosovo right now. So I think it's somewhat poignant that on a day when we're celebrating veterans, that we find ourselves in a situation where we are recognizing that right here, right now, today, in all parts of the world, our soldiers are doing exactly what we're celebrating today. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Vice President for Student Affairs, Mr. Coleman Joyce, Dean of Student Success, Mr. Carl Ye. I'd like to thank our wonderful singer for the national anthem, Miss Ann Ferguson. She always does such a wonderful job for us. Also like to thank the drummers, the son and grandson of Mr. Frank Merrill, who started the Longhouse, who made the Frank Merrill Veterans Memorial Garden that we find ourselves in today. His son and grandson, Mr. Robert Merrill and Mr. Kai West Merrill, have been our drummers here today. They do a phenomenal job for us here, and we're honored to have them. I'd also like to thank the LCC Native American Student Coordinator, Mr. Avery Old Coyote, for helping to facilitate all of this. It really means a lot. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, a member of the Cow Creek Umpqua and veteran of the United States Navy service, Mr. Jesse Spain.
Gawakwedu. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse Spain. I'm a member of the Cow Creek tribe, and I'm honored to be here today. First, I want to start by acknowledging this land of the Kalapua people, and who lived here since the beginning of time. This was their land, and it's unfortunate that they are not a federally recognized tribe in our United States, because they were definitely a people who lived here for centuries. It's an honor to be able to speak on Veterans Day, and as I'm looking at that memorial, that table that's set for those soldiers that didn't come home, as I was talking to Alan this morning, just the things that our soldiers endured. As you see all the medals on Alan's chest, that's a man who went door to door. And some pretty heavy time. And I honor those men and those women that served. I've been it's been heavy on my heart, about some things going on in my life right now. My sister's husband, Nakai, he volunteered for the Marine Corps after September 11th. He was 27 years old, so by standards, that's an old man in the Marines. And he's a combat veteran, and I love him. Like, I care about this man deeply. He's a good man. He's the father to my nephews and nieces, and he did a couple tours over there. He served 8 years in the Marine Corps and did a couple tours, and then was a trainer back in the States. And he's really struggling. He's really struggling with a lot of PTSD stuff. And I'm trying to help him the best I can. I'm a counselor, and I can only do so much. But he does listen to me. I sit with him and we talk. I'm one of the few people that he's opened up to about what he's experienced over there. And I'm always thinking of ways, like, man, how am I going to help my brother? And he's from the Apache tribe. And he's half Hispanic, half Apache. He grew up in East LA in gangs and everything, and pretty rough life growing up. But he's very proud to be a Marine. He's very proud of that, and part of him feels like he's let his fellow Marines down by having these struggles that he goes through. You know, and that's why there's a really high suicide rate among our veterans who've served. I don't want that to happen to my brother. You know, so I was thinking of this quote I heard a long time ago, and some say it goes back quite a ways back, that only the dead have seen the end of war. I guess that might go back to Plato, some say, but that's a true statement, and that goes beyond our soldiers. That's for all of us, right? And I've been thinking of ways I can help Nakai, and one of the ways is I'm going to be the regional director of a program down in Roseburg. We're opening up a culturally specific recovery center down in Roseburg because a lot of our veterans also struggle with substance abuse in one form or another. And I've been thinking of ways to help tribal veterans, and one of those ways is I'm going to start a tribal veteran club of sorts that'll be able to be in my recovery center, because one of the problems that, and it's, you know, nobody's fault other than the systems that be, there's nothing for our tribal veterans in the middle of the night. They can't go to the VA. There's nothing open in small communities, and this is where a lot of the veterans that I've worked with over the years have the most difficult time, is during the night, because they don't sleep very much. Those combat veterans, and they get 2-3 hours a night, and they're like, man, I slept in, feel good. And because I work with a couple other tribal veterans, two of our Cow Creek tribal veterans helped me build a sweat lodge, an amazing place on this island in the middle of Roseburg. I don't know if anybody knows there's an island in the middle of Roseburg, but there is an island. And the guy who owns that island, his name is Bernie, he gifted my organization, Painted Horse Recovery, a piece of land on that island. And we built this amazing area, about as big as this circle here. We gathered up debris from the island and we built a berm. It now stands about this high all the way around the circle, and it opens up, and then we have a lodge, we have an altar, and then we have where the fire will be, right? And I'm going to open that up for our tribal veterans, because a lot of our tribal veterans only want to sweat with other veterans, and they don't want to sweat with anybody else. And so I'll be able to provide that service to our tribal veterans, and also work on finding space for them to have a safe place to go at night, because like I said, that's the greatest need. And so we'll be opening up that recovery center in Roseburg probably in December, and being able to provide those services, which will be amazing for our really small community down there. That's what's been on my heart, though, my brother, and to think how many other of our veterans need those kinds of services, that they need that help. And what can we do as a community? What can we do as a people? What can we do, you know, as organizations like the VA to help these soldiers in their, I would say, their darkest hour, right? In that hour of need, late at night. It's easy to provide services during the day, right? But what about at night? That's what's really been on my heart, because that's when my brother struggles the most. You know, my sister will find him, you know, outside at night. They live on a big piece of property, but he'll just be outside wandering around at 2-3 in the morning. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come here today and to speak. A lot of people in my family have served over the time, all the way back to my great uncles. My great uncle Archie served in World War I in the Navy, and he was actually one of the very first Native Americans over Umatilla. That's where a lot of my family's from, the Umatilla Indian Reservation. He was one of the first, if not, I don't know, I want to say the first, but I mean, this was way back in the day, one of the, an Oregon State Patrolman, one of the first Native American for the Oregon State Patrol. And, goes there, my grandfather on my father's side was in World War II, some battles in the Pacific, in the South Pacific. My mother's father, my grandpa Harry, was in the Korean War in the Navy, a lot of Navy people. And then, of course, I was in the Navy. I was talking about my my cousin Ryan. He was in the United States Army. He joined in Iraq. Started out in the infantry, doing door to door, and then he went to Ranger School. And then after that, he decided he wanted to learn how to fly helicopters and became a warrant officer and flew helicopters. And now he teaches at an army. He teaches that. He said that's way more dangerous than than being in the army is teaching those guys how to fly helicopters. It's way more dangerous. He's good about it though. And then my brother Nakai and my wife's brother, he was he's actually still in the Air Force, pararescue, and that's an insane job, being a pararescue guy in the Air Force. So military's a big part of my family's history, as it is in a lot of Native American family histories. Native American population serves at the highest rate per capita, and we're also some of the most decorated in our country's history, Native American soldiers. So again, it's an honor to have the big drum here. Thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor here to stand before you and share a little bit of my story and my life and what's going on. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Also today here, we have Dr. Coleman Joyce, himself a Coast Guard veteran, and he's going to come up and say a few words himself. Dr. Coleman.
All right. It's hard to follow that. Thank you for you, your family, and everybody else who served for many, many generations. I want to thank Al, Sam, and the work they do in the Maxwell Student Veterans Center, day in, day out, helping our veterans and their dependents, and the work they do to help students get through this college. They're returning from their service, and they're trying to get a college education and transition into civilian life. And I think that's the part that gets me. I've seen it many times, that transition into civilian life is extremely difficult, and it's not just the first year or two, it's ongoing for a service member's life. I was lucky enough to have spent time in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I met many of our service members serving there, the combat veterans, and what they were going through, and had conversations, and knowing that they would be coming back at some point and transitioning into regular life. One thing I found during my time, and I just came back from a 2-week trip with some of my veteran friends. We were in Iceland and Scotland and Ireland, and it was a rowdy trip. It was a great trip, but I found out during the trip, one of my friends that served in different areas was also in a place of self-harm, very seriously so. So thanks for what you mentioned. I also just thanks again. I wanted to mention a little bit what you said. Ben Nighthorse Campbell, he was a former U.S. Senator for Colorado, also said that state American Indians have proudly worn our nation's uniform in every one of our conflicts. And American Indians per capita have the highest percentage of people in the military service. And I'm going to say my time in the Coast Guard, I think for me, I was recently in this country. I'd only been here 2 years, but I thought if they let me in, I should serve. And I didn't necessarily want to go to combat. I wanted to kind of go out there and save lives and do those kind of things, you know. So I appreciate those who served in combat extremely. But what I found was being in the U.S. military, you meet people from every background: Hispanic, Black, Native American, Filipino, Asian American, and at much higher rates than you do in most other fields. And so for me, it was an experience to get to know people that I might not have been able to have a conversation with in an easy way, and just being as well off the boat myself. And so I got to say thank you to all those who served from those different groups. And whether you're Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, I don't think we got any Space Force veterans yet, but maybe someday we will. Sorry, we're always ribbing each other. That's a way of. But I want to thank on behalf of Lane Community College for their service, and I especially want to thank those who served in combat in the many conflicts that the U.S. has been involved in over the decades and the centuries, and a lot of respect to those who signed the dotted line, whether they served in combat or not. They decided that they were going to take that risk, being deployed and serving abroad. And so thank you for those, whether you were served in combat or not. And also those who were drafted into the military, whether they wanted to or not, they still served. And I can imagine that must have been a very hard transition to be kind of forced into service. I can't imagine. Veterans Day is the day to honor those who served, but again, it's to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice to our country. I just want to say thanks to all of you for attending this ceremony today, and again, I'll thank you for putting this on. Thank you to our drummers, and thank you for your beautiful singing. Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
So, it's Veterans Day. It's a celebration. Sometimes it's kind of hard. It's not like Memorial Day where it's really, man, I really have to take a moment on Memorial Day. But Veterans Day is, let's not forget that it is a celebration. We're celebrating our veterans, okay? And part of the way that we celebrate our veterans is we recognize what we can do to help our veterans. One of the things that I'm really proud about at the Maxwell Student Veterans Center is we now have a new academic advisor, and between the three of us, we have, I think, a combined total of over 80 years of military service, and the combination of the three of us would make us an E24 if we combine ourselves. We have Sam Evans, who's one of the best in the business doing certifying official things. There's supposed to be one certifying official for every 120. We've got the better part of 200 using VA benefits, and it's all Sam. He's pretty much the man when it comes to certifying officials, and I just want to say thank you to Sam. But it's Veterans Day, and I think there's a big thing that we have to remind ourselves every Veterans Day, you know, where it come from and how this whole thing started. Veterans Day started at the end of World War I. And in one particular way, you know, most of the rest of the world started just thinking of the 11th of November as being Remembrance Day, to remember the fallen. But we took it a step further, because in that regard, we were a long ways ahead of everybody else. Because at the end of the Civil War, in 1865, by 1866, we'd started our own Memorial Day. So we'd already been doing it for half a century. So in that way, we were ahead of the rest of the world. But on the 11th hour, on the 11th of November, on the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent in World War I. And it ended what at that time was the most horrible war that the world had ever seen. The World War, it was called, as it was called at the time, finally ended, and the war that killed more people than any other war ever was done, and they thought it was going to be the war to end all wars. And unfortunately, as we all know, well, that wasn't the case. But it's a day of celebration and recognition. In some ways, it's a solemn one. As our country and much of the world mourned, there remained a desperate glimmer of hope that the Great War would indeed be the war to end all wars. In Lane County, there are over 30,000 veterans in our county. And if you think about it, in a county of about 300,000 people with 30,000 veterans, that means 10% of our county is a veteran. 10% of the entire population is a veteran. If it was an affinity group, it would be the largest affinity group in the county. There are currently 1,000 currently serving military personnel. About 800 of them are reserve component. About 250 of them are active duty, spread between Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard station at Florence. The veterans that we have in this county, we still have 2 World War II vets that I know of. We have veterans in this county that served in every conflict from World War II through Korea, through Vietnam, through the Balkans. We have several Somalia veterans, Afghanistan, Iraq. The list just goes on and on and on. And right here in our county, we've got them from every single conflict in every single theater, all the way from World War II to present day. And today is a day we also kind of celebrate our commonalities. We celebrate how we're the same. Every month I put out our veterans poster series that celebrates a specific element of veterans. I've got a Native American poster series that I put out to celebrate Native American veterans and service members. I've got Hispanic Heritage for the Hispanic Heritage Month. I've got Asian American and Pacific Islander. I've got Jewish, Italian. I've got a whole series of different posters because I think it's important that we celebrate, the quilt work of the country that we come from, which makes our military. An army can only be as good as the population from which it comes from, and we have a great population, and we have a great way to weave this all together that makes the finest fighting force that the world has ever seen. But on days like today, I think it's really important to celebrate how we're the same, especially our veterans, how we're the same. We all grew up having, dinner table discussions when we were kids about what we were going to do and what we were going to be, and most of us did something somehow different than what we had planned on doing. We've all got family, we've all got friends, we've all got certain basic things that we did growing up that are the same. And for veterans, every single one of those veterans signed a blank check. They signed a blank check payable up to and including their life for the defense of the United States of America, and payable to the defense of the Constitution of the United States of America. Okay? I think it's a pretty important thing to keep in mind is that even if a veteran went and didn't see a single thing, could have been a guy, maybe he never even left the country. Doesn't matter. Could have left the country, been in the safest job. It doesn't matter because ultimately that veteran signed a blank check up to and including payable to with their life in the defense of their country and their Constitution. So I think it's important that we celebrate that. Today I'm grateful to be here to honor with you all the veterans who came before us, those who stood alongside us, and those who will come after us. To those veterans here today, thank you. Your service and sacrifice represent the best of us and the best of America. We salute you and appreciate the great costs that often come with serving. An unknown author said, "I served my country and walked among the best. My heart almost bursts with pride when I see the medals on their chest. We sank many pints together and shared mess tins full of stew. I've never been a hero, but I've walked amongst a few." They're men that I know that are now gone, and I miss them every day. They'll never be forgotten, though in the ground they now lay. We've marched in snow and ice together, and in the north, when the north winds blew. I've never been a hero, but I've shook the hands of a few. Veterans Day is special, and our respect we always pay. Sometimes shed a tear when I hear taps play. Standing proud with an aching heart, I always see it through. I've never been a hero, but I've walked amongst a few. Reginald Gibbons, who is an author of note, wrote a poem called A Veteran. And it goes like this. My father came down not killed, fallen from among others, killers or killed, for whom he'd worn a uniform, and he lived long afterward. A steady man on the flattest of plains, I called after him many times, surprised when I heard the catch in his voice. He didn't know how to find the solace of listening to someone else speak of what he'd seen and survived. He himself closed his own mouth against his own words. In the wrong sequence, his spirit, then his mind, and last his body crossed over that infamous, paint, inky, metaphorical water that has no far shore. I think he was carried like a leaf in currents so gentle that a duckling, had it been alive, could have braved them, but too strong for a leaf and saturated with minerals that steadily replaced organic cells. The water turned my father, a former soldier, to leaf-delicate stone inscribed with the axioms of countless veins. It's pretty deep stuff, you know, pretty deep stuff. We remember our veterans. I think another important part about remembering our veterans, while we do celebrate, and it's not Memorial Day, while we celebrate veterans, veterans means all veterans past, veterans present, veterans future, and that includes the fallen. I think it wouldn't be Veterans Day if we didn't include the Fallen Soldier Memorial. As you entered this area this morning, you may have noticed a small table and a place of honor near the head table. It's set for one. The military cast is filled with symbolism, and the table is our way of symbolizing the fact that members of our honored military are missing from our midst. They're the fallen military members, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen, our brothers and sisters, and they're unable to be with us this evening, so we remember them. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who kept the faith, awaiting their return. The ID tags are blank, symbolizing that at any time a similar fate could have awaited those of us who take up the profession of arms in the noble defense of our nation. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate. The salt upon the bread plate is symbolic of the family's tears as they mourn, and the glass inverted. It cannot toast with us today, and we remember them. The chair is empty. They're not here. Remember. Please observe one moment of silence, please. Thank you very much for your attendance. To close out the ceremony, our drummers have got a special song for us. the flag song. It's flag song, right?
Honor Soldiers Song, Ring Song.
Oh, so we're finishing with the soldiers honoring song. Please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to our ceremony. Please help yourself to some food, some drinks, some coffee, and thank you so much for coming. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you.